Welcome back to the NBA Rundown. As always, I'm Dave DeBaugh coming to you live and, of course, on tape from the heart of the Silicon Valley. Joining me today is Sudhanva from beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. We are going to dive into the craziness that is NBA free agency. I don't know if you heard this yet. This is just breaking news. It's not official because it hasn't actually happened yet, but Bradley Beal and the Phoenix Suns are currently discussing a buyout. How are you doing today, Sudhanva, and what do you think about that?
Absolutely, Dave. Thank you so much for having me, first of all, and shout out to the channel. You guys are awesomely growing. So the thing is with the Bradley Beal stuff, I mean, at the end of the day, we know he wants to go to a contender. So this is a good move for him. And, for the Suns, right? They're kind of, washing a stain that's like, off their shoe, essentially. When bubble gum sticks to your shoe and what ends up happening, it starts stretching it out, right? So now when Bradley Beal ends up, getting bought out, it's a little bit better of a, situation for him as well as the team that is buying him out in the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, like getting some bubble yum on my shoes. It's almost impossible to get it off of. And that's exactly what the Phoenix Suns have sort of been dealing with since they actually made this move to get Bradley Beal in the first place. Where does Bradley Beal end up? I mean, like, who wants him at this point?
I really like a landing spot in the Milwaukee Bucks. I think he would be a perfect, I'm not saying he's like a Damien Lillard replacement. He's not near the player Damien Lillard is, but he would be a really good fit with, Giannis and Miles Turner, which I want to talk about. Miles Turner signs a 4-year, $107 million contract to join the Milwaukee Bucks. Pacers, what are you doing? You were just in the finals.
It's so crazy. Just in the finals. The Pacers' decision to not re-up with Miles Turner was purely about not actually wanting to go over that the NBA salary cap, at least into the first tier of the luxury tax. And I'll say this. I mean, like, if you're not willing to do that once in 20 years, which the Pacers haven't been, then you should just go ahead and sell the team. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the Pacers organization, and it did not bring Miles Turner back because of money. Now, if they didn't want to bring him back because of other reasons, that's one thing. But the reality is this was just simply a cash play on their end. And I feel bad for all of the Indiana Pacers fans who now don't have Halliburton, now don't have Miles Turner, who has been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
I would be asking for the team to be sold at this point.
Yeah, apparently Miles Turner is very sick of all the trade rumors that kept happening, so he's kind of happy to be out of there. And I don't blame him. I mean, imagine you're a really good player who holds it down for your team over the last 10 years to always be in trade rumors. I understand he wanted out and he wanted to find a new destination that would stand to benefit him. Moving on, Mike Brown has been hired as the New York Knicks head coach. And, I take a lot of credit on this one, Dave, because, I called this one.
Dude, I will give you all the credit in the world as well as the credit in the world when they actually can him halfway through the season. Look, I like what he's done or did with the Sacramento Kings. An organization that can't figure out which way is up and which way is down. They think water's not wet. That is how bad the Sacramento Kings organization is. So I hope that Mike Brown, who has changed the way he coaches significantly in his last couple stops as a head coach in the NBA. And if you look at the offensive strategy that he was running in Sacramento, it was completely different than anything that he had ran in the past, which opens me up to ask you this question. Are the Knicks now going to go ahead and trade for LeBron James?
No, I don't believe that the Knicks are going to trade for LeBron James. But what I can see as a LeBron destination is one of my favorite teams, the Dallas Mavericks. Now with Cooper Flag and Kyrie Irving. I mean, where have we seen this before? I could see LeBron in a situation where he decides, okay, maybe the Lakers accept, PJ, Daniel Gafford, and Klay Thompson, maybe a first round pick for yours truly, LeBron James, and I'm pretty sure the Lakers would let him go. Because I mean, if you're building around Luka and Ayton, Klay Thompson is a perfect shooter right next to it. Then you got PJ and Gafford, which is a good, defensive duo, which is what the Lakers are missing. They got bullied by Randall in the playoffs, which is kind of unheard of. We don't see Randall really bullying anyone. And then who do you think is the biggest threat to OKC? Is it the Rockets with what they've done with Dorian Finney-Smith and Capella, or would you say it's the Nuggets with what they've done with Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway, and getting those guys under contract? And then obviously the trade of Michael Porter and that 2032 first round pick in exchange for Cam Johnson.
Yeah, a hell of a move by the Denver Nuggets this offseason. I'm still sort of blown away that they canned Mike Malone when they did. And how big of a jerk does Mike Malone have to be to not actually have a chance at being the head coach of the New York Knicks? You have to, Mike Brown's a good guy in New York, and I hope he does well. But seriously, on the Malone question, it's definitely worth asking yourself that. That being said, when you look at the Western Conference as a whole, we know that OKC just won the championship, but clearly Denver has enough firepower on paper now to do the same. So does Houston. To some extent, we know that the Timberwolves have been there. We're not sure yet what's going to happen with the Lakers. And for God's sakes, I guess I should probably bring up the Clippers as well. All of the teams I just mentioned have enough firepower to actually figure out how to get through the Western Conference next season. And that's why, I wouldn't just blindly throw down a bunch of money on OKC to repeat this year, because the Western Conference is so incredibly loaded. So it'll be very interesting to see. But the Nuggets and the Rockets certainly have made the most improvements so far. I think on the Laker front, look, they're not going to do anything with LeBron. I seriously doubt LeBron does anything. But they do need to shore up Luka Doncic first. And so it'll be interesting to see if that actually does happen in about a month.
Okay, yeah. So for me, I see that, the Minnesota Timberwolves and, Los Angeles Clippers, I want to talk about them for a second because I could see the Clippers as a destination for, a player such as, Lamelo Ball. I know I've talked about this, and, if the Charlotte Hornets can get 2 or 3 first round picks for Lamelo Ball, I would love to see that as a destination, and potentially, him competing with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, and now making that team more dangerous than, it could have been. And then, this team in the Minnesota Timberwolves, let's say that Dame decides, okay, they've stretched me, and at the end of the day that I want to go to the team with a gap in it. And so Ayton decided to sign with the Lakers because he saw that's the best spot for him to just come in and take the spot right away. I would love to see Damian Lillard with Anthony Edwards and that team. And the thing is, they could sign him probably to a veteran minimum contract. And at this point, even if he comes back during the All-Star break, we can see the Timberwolves making a push for at least the 3 seed. What do you think?
Look, I've been so nice to DeAndre Ayton in this podcast today. And I just have to get this off my chest because, he's famous for not going to Portland Trailblazer practice because there was too much ice in his driveway. He couldn't get off his driveway. I wonder if we're going to see a headline someday that says DeAndre Ayton doesn't show up to Laker practice because there was too much sand in his driveway. He is such a head case that his performance on the court is one thing. It's just a question of whether or not the Laker organization is going to be able to deal with all the things that come.
Yeah, the immaturity that comes with him. As a former number 1 overall pick, I've seen with some of these guys Zion Williamson, DeAndre Ayton, right? It's not about the talent that you have, right? Can you be a player like Paolo Banchero where you just, look at your organization you're a mature guy. You come in ready to work. Even let's say, I'm very surprised and I'm very happy for Ace Bailey with the way that he's moved on and handled things, and he's showing out that, hey, I'm still that superstar that you drafted. I'm going to show all these guys that, I shouldn't have gone, where I did. And like, he still, I believe, will have this chip on his shoulder, whether he created it or not, of wanting to be traded to a worse team. He's going to show all these people that, they should have just shut up and drafted him at the end of the day, because he was
Yeah.
a top 5 player.
Yeah. I think not a day or an hour goes by where you don't work Lamelo Ball into a conversation. So where do you really want to see Lamelo? To the Clippers? Is that what you really want to see? And what do they have to give up to make that happen?
Yeah, as I told you, they probably have to give up Derek Jones Jr., 3 first-round picks, and one of either Norman Powell or Bogdan Bogdanovic. It just depends whether they want Bogey's defense or they prioritize Norm's offense more. I would
Yeah,
probably
you
give
got
up
to
Norman
keep
Powell
Powell. You got to keep
already.
Powell in a deal like that, and then the 3 number 1 draft picks.
It's
If I
whatever, because see, at the end of the day, 2027 first, 2029 first,
yeah,
2031. Like, do we see them? I don't know. I mean, I think they can still be competitive even in those years. Like, because see, if they get a guy like LaMelo Ball, and they maybe need one more superstar, and they'll be able to be competitive. So I don't believe that the Clippers would be making a mistake. And for the Hornets, it's a way for them to say, okay, Brandon Miller, okay, Con Knuppel, you guys have the reins. Speaking of the Hornets, they signed Spencer Dinwiddie to a sign and trade, and they also got Pat Connaughton. So I like the moves that the Hornets are sneakily making. I think they're, again, a team that's getting some veterans now with these young guys. And I saw some interviews that Sion James had, Ryan Kalkbrenner, like I was talking about, and then of course, Liam McNeely, right? He's the guy that fell all the way to 29, that everyone believed that, he was going to be a top 10 lottery pick. So
yeah.
um, the Hornets are really building something, and I'm very happy about it. Dave.
Yeah, so I'm just taking a quick look at a rundown sheet I have here, and
Mm.
one last topic, at least on today's show, I wanted to cover with you, and that's Dame Lillard being a free agent now, and while I think it makes a lot of sense for him to just simply wait until his rehab gets a little further down the road, and then he's able to see if there are any teams that are truly contenders that could utilize his services. With that all being said, where do you think he ultimately ends up?
Yeah, so like I was saying, I like the Minnesota Timberwolves, but I want to go in a few different directions. We can move over to the Eastern Conference. So let's say that, Dame decides, okay, I like Darius Garland, I like Donovan Mitchell. Why don't I go in and just play on that rotation? We saw what that 1 seed Cavs did. The only issue with them is sometimes the offense would be stagnant, and Dame would be a guy who could fix it there. Another team that I could say Dame saying is like, okay, Halliburton's hurt. He got hurt way later than I did. If I can come back after the All-Star break and potentially help this Pacers team, get to, let's say, the second round or something like that, that's a good spot I can go to on a temporary, 1 or 2 year deal. And then, the last spot is, a team that, you really wouldn't think would even need anything. But I would say the Orlando Magic, just with the way that they have been able to, win this offseason. At the end of the day, Suggs would probably need to make this sacrifice to either move to the bench, or you'd probably play your starting 5 of Damian Lillard, Jalen Suggs, Desmond Bain, Paulo Banchero, and Franz Wagner. So you probably have to work with something like that. And so the problem with that is, like, the defense kind of trickles a little bit, whereas, if you had, Jace Richardson, starting. I really like Jace Richardson. And so, or if Desmond Bain starts at the 2, you have more size on defense because you can play a guy like, Carter in the paint.
Yeah.
Or you can play another center, right? So it's just a little bit different in that sense.
That makes a lot of sense. For me personally, I wouldn't be surprised to see him, wait a little while, see what happens in Tinseltown with the Los Angeles Lakers. There's always been that sort of thing. One thing I know for certain is he's not coming up here to the Bay Area. People up here still remember him making comments like he didn't want to be like KD.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like him on the Lakers. I think it's a really good fit. Because if you got Dame, Luka, Ayton, LeBron, that's a championship team. I don't care what anyone will say. Because the thing is, how are you guarding all 4 of them at the same time? It's really difficult.
And I think with the Lakers, it's also a question of how damaged is the relationship with Dalton Connect? Because that kid has a lot of talent and a lot of potential. Yeah. Speaking of the Hornets, you would have loved to have him on the Hornets last year. If that
we had an unprotected first that we were going to get along with Dalton Connect. It's terrible luck that Mark Williams couldn't pass that physical, but that would have been a great trade for both teams, honestly.
Yeah, it would have been a good move for the Lakers. They wouldn't be sitting here, in the DeAndre Ayton sweepstakes. And dealing with all of that. All right, before we get out of here, any final thoughts?
No, Dave, it's top of the hour. I appreciate you once again having me, and it's always great to break down, what the next moves of, free agency, either the drafts or any of these awesome trades that we get to see.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite lines of this podcast had to have been about the comparing Bradley Beal to bubblegum. which is absolutely accurate, and that's what the Phoenix Suns have been dealing with. And I'm sure a little bit later today, where there's smoke, there's fire, there'll be an official announcement that comes down that Bradley Beal has been bought out in some fashion or another. All right. Well, for Sudhanva out of beautiful Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Dave DeBaugh up in the Silicon Valley, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.
Please like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Thank you so much for watching.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.